What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 256. Sweet Jesus of Opinions May Vary. I'm your host, JR, my co-host, my trusty co-host with me, Alex.
Hello.
This guy right here. Every week.
I'm not that trusty.
Joining us this week is pretty much our third co-host, because he's done like 50 episodes. What's the count up to?
Oh, we're probably at 35.
It's pretty amazing. But we've been having less and less of him, which kind of makes me sad, but it's also like, he does have a life. Anyways, Brett Kelley.
Let's not jump to that much of a conclusion, you guys.
Brett Kelley is here joining us this week.
Yes, hello, gentlemen.
To regale us with tales of fairies.
Yes.
And
gonna warm the cockles of your heart despite the foot and a half
Jersey.
of snow out. Yeah.
Oh yeah, if you're one of us in the New England area, hopefully you're not exhausted with a broken back like me. My back is thrashed right now. Like, nah. Like, everyone's like, oh, hey, you got to go through your first winter, like, you know, with a shovel. Go through your first winter with a shovel. Earn the snowblower.
No.
You got to earn it. And, like, everyone was like, oh, your driveway's tiny. When there's 14 inches of snow, my driveway is enormous. It, like, triples in length.
It's magic. It's bigger on the south side. It's like a reverse TARDIS.
It took my wife and I 3 tries
It's a drive WARDIS.
to get half of our driveway
Sit
clear.
rat.
To get enough of our driveway clear so that we actually fit our cars in the driveway.
Jeez.
And then the rest, like, we went out this morning.
Mm-hmm.
We did. It's brutal. And then it snowed a little bit more this morning.
Yeah.
God,
Yep. We're supposed to get even more in the next couple
On
days.
Sunday.
Yeah.
so excited.
Yeah.
We are
great.
blessed here in New England.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know how many
Well, that's me.
poisonous insects and reptiles that we have up here? Not many,
Nope.
Right.
because we have all this snow
'Cause we have
instead.
snow.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'll take
so
it.
be thankful.
I guess it's a fair trade-off. We don't have spiders the size of dinner plates,
No.
which
Yeah.
is a little bit better.
I mean, I could take the trade, maybe.
And, like, you know, snow can look nice. I have like an icicle on my house. It's like legitimately like 3 feet long.
Careful those. One time, an icicle hit me in the head.
Ooh, yikes!
Me,
Yeah.
myself, and Will were clearing snow off of our friend Steph's house, and there was a lot of ice, so we were trying to help her get the ice and snow off the roof.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, you think you just whack it and it'll just fall straight down, and it didn't, and it hit me, and, like, I had to close my eyes for a minute, and Will's like, are you okay? And I'm like, hang on.
Maybe.
Oh, no.
And, like, the door opens, and I see, like, Heather was out there. And Heather, like, leans to the door. She's like, hey, are you out? Oh, you're bleeding.
Oh no!
She got me patched up.
That's good.
Yeah. So careful when you go to whack those icicles off your house.
Yeah.
This was a big one. It's like, it was a 2-hander. It was easily, like, how big is this? What is that?
Large.
Like,
It's a
Alex
lot.
is making a large
It's
circle.
that's
with his
bigger than
fingers.
that's bigger than a CD.
like a
or a
grapefruit,
DVD.
maybe? Like a...
Yeah.
It's too big to the point where I can't make dick jokes.
And then it was about this long.
Again, too big to where I can't.
Yeah.
At least 2 feet long. It had to weigh at least like 10 pounds. So at least
Wow.
I know I could take this 10-pound cylinder to my head. Anyway,
Yeah.
Brett, thank you for joining us.
No, thanks for having me.
Brett's here to tell us about a show he went to,
I am.
and we weren't even like reporting on this one either. This wasn't even like you were just an attendee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of like technically as part of staff. Like I helped work the event
Brett
in
always
some
works it.
capacity. I try.
Help her outer.
Yeah, I helped out a lot of people doing a lot of things, and it was enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is that time of year for Brett Kelley's sort of remembers things but not quite, and then gets corrected later. Fantastic Fest. So yeah, that'll be.
But you went to,
yeah.
because the last couple of years you've given us like either write ups or episodes on
That's true.
Wicked Faire.
Yeah,
And a couple years ago, Alex and I went. That's where we initially met the guys from Super Art Fight, because it was Wicked Faire / Voltaire's Wicked Necro Comic Con. Remember that? Remember when
Yep.
that happened?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But Wicked Faire is no more.
Yeah.
Tis done.
Yep.
And it has been replaced by a new show, Glimmerdark.
Yeah. New
Which-
form.
Which, new form, not necessarily final form.
No. Yeah, it was really interesting. If anything, because I think Glimmerdark, it did have a couple of different handles, but I believe the last handle was Misfit Fairy Fair
Stuff.
Yeah, we'll go with something like that.
We've talked about it in the past. If you've listened to our past episodes, you can go back and check those out.
Yep.
Because this is another Jeff Mock event. We've talked to Jeff Mock himself. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
I always say Mock too. Every time. Every time.
But yeah, we've talked to. He's done part of an episode with us, and it's a clever idea, which I feel can be lacking sometimes, because there isn't really a winter con season. There's not too many that come around, and people that like going out, getting dressed up, doing stuff, having fun. There's not always things to do like in this area over the winter months, because when you think conventions or fairs, not so much Ren fairs or other kinds of shows, it's usually warmer. And so Jeff decided to put together one of these events that you could have in the winter and still have fun, still have something to do. The vendors could get by, maybe not quite having a day job, because they'll get to sell some product and still do what they enjoy.
Yeah. Something to bring up the lull in the non-con season, I suppose.
And same thing for the performers too. I don't just want to single out the vendors for having something to do. Like the performers that might not get as many shows, if they perform at fairs or on town greens or march in parades or whatever, then this is another event where they can have performance.
Totally.
In a cozy place in the wintertime.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I could say is, like, I think if somebody were to ask, the one thing I do like is that, I don't know if we've said it yet, but it is this year's new iteration of this midwinter con is called Glimmerdark. I think we just said it a couple minutes ago, but I wanted to say that it proper. But it is more of the theming on it is more fairy fantasy, whimsical. Whereas opposed to, I think, with Wicked Faire, I think Wicked Faire always was one of those things where you'd ask, like, what is Wicked Faire? And you're kind of like, oh, well, it's, do you like, what do you like? And it's there. Like, it's one of those types of things. With this one, Glimmerdark.
Year to year in the past for Wicked Faire, they would try to have, like, a theme for each show.
Agreed.
So, like, there was a year where it was a Mad Tea Party, and then there was a year where it was Halloween.
Yep.
And sometimes, like, some people would focus on the theme, and other times people just do what they want to do.
Yeah.
which isn't out of place.
Agreed. Yeah, wholeheartely. Yeah.
But I do like the more lighthearted tone.
I would say that the theming of Glimmerdark was completely well embraced, and it was something that was very, like, if you were to go to it, and if you had been to Wicked Faire before, you could tell the difference. Where you're like, wow, this has definitely like a really a definite setting and a point of view, and all of the panels and everything that I'm experiencing is all themed in the motif of Glimmerdark, and it was really awesome because everything was very it wasn't as like broken apart as you would get with Wicked Faire. You're like, oh, well, there's a steampunk guy, no, there's a gothic guy, or there's an industrial person, and then someone, or there's another, something else. This one was all very much one core concept of the Fae and the kind of the other world, whimsical fantasy realm, but it still had those flavors of everything that was always brought to Wicked Faire. It was just concentrated under a different lens, which is kind of neat. It's almost like like to put it in comic book terms for any of us, it's almost like when the episode, like when you read an issue where it's like, oh, well, the Justice League just became cows or something, and now we get to have this whole thing where it's still the same thing that but it's under a different focus. It's almost like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought, but just not cows, just more more fae folk and all that other stuff, which is awesome. And it was always repeated in kind of everything that I experienced drove that point home, and even the vendors were all geared towards that too. So I mean, I don't want to go on too much of a. For me to lead it is a little weird, just because how my brain works. We'll go in all the nooks and crannies, and I'll go off the map for a little bit. But if you guys have questions, like, I can definitely react to those just as well.
Okay.
So, but yeah. I mean, if you wanted to start talking about anything in particular, I can go there, like with vendors, musicians, all that stuff. But it was overall, it was very fun.
Over seeing pictures show up and seeing, some parts of the weekend, I did notice there seemed to be a lot more directed theming of different people's costumes and what they're wearing and their makeup and everything.
Yeah.
It looked really focused on that Fae aspect, which I found was neat.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were like great. They were really solid costumes throughout. I mean, like one of the things that I kind of got to help out with a little bit is that there was like a character troupe of people that were kind of interacting with people throughout the course of the day. Kind of like costume characters at like you'd see at like a theme park, but dialed back a little bit, not as much, not like as intense, but just people that would be Fae, because like the old school culture of Fae folk is that they mess with humans. Like they're you know, they live in this realm that don't necessarily speak English, or they may not even speak to people. They might be caught on the side, but they normally they're pranksters or tricksters. They kind of mess with people a little bit, which was awesome. And everyone kind of had their own spin on it. Like I saw, like for all the steampunk fans, there were green fairies running around. There was this one dude. I don't recall his name, but he was involved in the programming very heavily. He was walking around. He had a gigantic spoon with a sugar cube on the back with big green fairy wings and a top hat. He looked awesome. He had a bunch of bells that would just, you could always hear him because he was jingle 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 like everywhere around the atrium area, and that was really cool. And everyone kind of had their own, like, you know, people with kilts that would look like Irish or Scottish, just with like, you know, fairy wings just kind of strapped on the back, just very, you know, kind of like the nod and the wink to the theme. So that was a lot of fun, and everyone had a lot of really cool costumes. Because I would say that Glimmerdark, things didn't kick in until Saturday, Sunday. I would say Friday was a little quiet. Sunday was a little quiet. Saturday was the big day.
It's usually how it is.
Yeah, and since it is kind of like they're treating it like a new convention. So there's a lot of people that showed up on Saturday just to check it out. But everyone that showed up, like they were like, oh yeah, like I'm going to bring what I know about this theme to the party, and it all fit really well. It was awesome. Yeah, it added to the atmosphere, as it were.
After being to so many Jeff Mack events, we get used to the regulars.
Yeah.
And so I guess my next question is, were there many new additions to the performers or the vendors to try and work into the new theme, or was it like the tried and true, like what we've known, who may have altered their set a little bit or the performance or what they vend? It was a
really nice blend between the two. What I would say, because obviously we're hardcore veterans of the Jeff Mack event, of the JMEs, as it were. And you know, a lot of the staples that you always see, like Frenchie and the Punk, were there. Trying to think of some of the other, like Frenchie the Punk were there, obviously, to repeat myself, and Scott himself kind of did a couple items. Ascadelia, Azzy, the Mad Hatress, she was one of the performers. She's there as she always is. Yep. But and then Daniel Greenwolf, which I'm not sure if he's been like.
I don't know if he was there last year. He wasn't there when we were there, JR. He was there before that. Yeah,
he's no stranger to the events for sure. True, but like, but all those people, like even the people that returned, they definitely reworked their show and their sets to kind of, and what they do to kind of reincorporate the theme, which was awesome. Because like, I mean, Faye comes from an Irish mythology, really, and Daniel Greenwolf during his performances worked that back in.
He's very Irish.
Oh yeah,
the Celtic magician.
Oh yeah, it's. I don't know if we can. I don't want to know if we want to talk about that just yet. But like Daniel Greenwolf was awesome. Like, and I'm sure I'll go into that later when we dig deeper into like the nuts and bolts of it. But there were a lot of new acts and stuff like that. A bunch of people that were new to the scene. The Long Losts, which I think you might have heard, they're kind of like they're more of like a gothic rock duo. Kind of like in the same vein. On the surface, you could be like, oh, they're just like they're like a more hard rock version of Frenchie and the Punk, but I wouldn't say that would be accurate. They definitely have their own flavor and their own brand of music, which is really cool. And I really like them because they are more gothic hard rock. They'll be playing at Dark Side of the Con. I really like their set. They're much more on the dark, like the gothic side of kind of like the yin yang of Glimmerdark, where you have like the nice, pretty, whimsical, but then they also wanted the goth, dark, spooky side a little bit. Long Lost, I think, brought that part to the theming in general, and they were really great. I saw them play a couple times, got their CD and all their swag and all that stuff. Really good, like really enjoy them. They have like nice little bursts of surf rock, which I don't know why I have like this huge like weird like enjoyment of that like sound aesthetic. I don't think they would call it surf rock, but it has like the nice like that nice ride of goth and rock that with a little bit of like the surf up tempo in there, which is nice. But yeah, so and then there was a couple other like there was another band called Kittens Slay Dragons,
of course,
and they like their tagline sold me on who they on.
Wait, so their name didn't sell you? The tagline sold you.
It was a whole package deal, but I think one of their taglines for their for one of the posters they had, there was like songs that go beep boop. And I was like, man, I really want to see these guys. So they were neat. Like, they were people I'd never seen before, and they all obviously wore wings and stuff like that. It was a 3-piece. And they played a lot of songs, like a lot of nerd songs. Like, I think they had one for, like, there was an homage to Supernatural, the show Supernatural, I think, which, unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the show, so I had a hard time kind of, like...
Apparently it's got, like, 12 seasons or something.
Yeah, but, I mean, they were good. Like, they were nice. Like, it was kind of like the new blood that I'd never seen at a Jeff Mack show before.
So it's not like these were new acts or like new bands. Like
some were, some weren't. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like it sounds like they've been playing for a while, or like they know what they're doing. They know how to put it together.
Yes,
set.
They're polished.
They've developed songs. It's not like they just like, hey, let's make a band and go do this show.
Yeah, no,
like,
I would not say that at all. No. Yeah. And actually, the vendors actually were really cool too. Like some of the like, I don't know if we want to like compartmentalize how we normally do wrap ups, but like there was like vendors were also there were a bunch of vendors that actually like really embraced Glimmerdark too. Like there were vendors that you could get like fairy houses, and like there was a fairy house vendor there that you could go, and then there you could get taxidermy fairies.
When we're talking about these houses, like is this like a dollhouse?
Not, I wouldn't say it was quite like a dollhouse, but it's definitely in that
but
family.
You keep your
that
fairies
wheelhouse
in there.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's a weird like subcultural thing where like,
have you never heard of going out to make a fairy house like in the woods somewhere?
No.
Okay.
I have not.
So I guess it's like
you're gonna learn something.
My niece learned a couple years ago because like the Girl Scouts kind of do this thing, but I also have friends who are. I'm not sure what the term to use is. Yeah,
it's kind of like
it's a weird kind of culture thing.
Yeah,
but there's also a lot of whimsy to the person itself.
Yeah.
So you can like go to Boston Commons and just find a few things and make your own little fairy house.
Yeah,
because it's just like you have to find natural objects that grow outside. They're natural occurring things, branches, leaves, twigs, whatever.
Rebar.
And
barbed wire.
Ignore me. Excuse me.
And like you essentially make this little, like not quite a teepee, but you build this little platform.
Right.
And it's essentially serves as a tiny shelter in it. I think usually it faces a certain direction if you make it outside somewhere.
I think so, yeah.
And like it's supposed to essentially have like a little door. A little fairy can go live in there. You just make this thing.
Gotcha.
I mean, if you're walking by it and you don't know, you're just going to see a pile of twigs.
Right.
To be honest. But the concept is that it's supposed to be made out of naturally occurring stuff.
Yeah.
And I've seen another version of this. I believe one of the vendors in the past couple of years that was at the Craft Fair, the Stars and Skulls. Someone there had made like ones you could take home, like almost in gift baskets.
Huh.
Oh yeah,
and there was like little branches, like little sticks, and like with moss on it, like almost like really detailed, neat. I can't think of the term. I'm really blanking recently.
No, that's like foliage or whatever, like accoutrement, if you will.
when you make the tiny model, like for school.
Yeah, diorama.
Diorama.
There it is.
That was it. I couldn't think of
it's
diorama.
All right. Yep. Actually, to give you further context, when I went to Nantucket. The first thing you do when you get off the boats when you go to Nantucket, because they had that art show in 2014, they have little fairy houses that are on the dock. So like it's like a weird, not a weird, but it's like it's a very small nod. Like it's out there. It's just it's not necessarily there's not many spotlights showing on it. It's kind of like a very traditional cultural almost. But
I'm sure we've spotted the internet.
Yeah,
like a post somewhere of like someone who's like making tiny doorways to put into sides of buildings.
Yep.
They're just making these little itty bitty doors with like it looks like a little house front.
Yeah.
Because it's like a doorbell and maybe a mailbox, but it's a really nice little door that someone constructed and put into this cranny between these buildings or between these bricks, and like essentially making like a small fairy doorway.
Yeah. Yep. And that's yeah. And so like there were a lot of vendors that really kind of had wares that dealt with that aspect.
Now
where you
I want
could
to
get
put a
your
tiny door in my house somewhere.
right.
You absolutely should do that.
Yeah. It was so there was it was awesome. Like I had a lot of really cool conversations with those vendors, with many of those vendors, and it was like, and that was just fun because once again, it brought something new that I had not experienced. Where it's not where you don't get the deja vu. It's a very welcome and enjoy deja vu, but it's nice to kind of be like, oh, this is new, this is neat. So it's not. It really did help. Avoid like the fear that a lot of people had where it's like, oh well, this is just 2.0. I would not say that it was a 2.0 in any way whatsoever.
I don't want to knock any specific vendor,
no,
but what you're talking about, it's nice getting that change, compared to having the fourth table or booth or room that's selling leather braces. Right. It's like it's more bracers for leather armor. That's okay.
Yeah.
You're the fifth one I've seen today, but they're all they're a little bit different.
It was refreshing. I mean, like I said, it was a wonderful blending of the old and the new. So like I still like looking at leather bracers, and they didn't have that, but well, I understand what you mean though.
But also with that,
yeah,
there's the vendors that like you want back because you saw something last time that you didn't buy and you regret it.
Delamorte and Company. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud?
And so it's like, I hope they come back so I could buy that thing that I didn't buy last time because I regret, So there's definitely like a good thing to having returnees. And, because there are definitely like leather pieces that like I was like, oh shit, I didn't save up for that one.
But it was good. Like there was a lot of new blood there that I was like, oh man, like this is some really cool stuff. I actually like there's some really there was some good stuff there. And then I had some really good conversations with people that I'd never spoken with before. And of course I got to catch up with a lot of other people who throughout the year are vendors that make new stuff, and I get to be, oh, what's the new stuff this year? Like there was a couple people like that where I was like, oh man, this stuff's really neat. So yeah.
David, put you on the spot. What's an example of a couple of those?
I can actually, the first one that I can tell you was, well, there's two in particular that I can talk about right off the bat. One of them was, actually like, they were called Weird. It's spelled WYRD, so I can't tell if it's Word Armories or Weird Armories. I hope it's Weird Armories because I like the wordplay.
Or Wired.
Or it could be Wired.
Maybe it's a hard Y.
Yeah. But it's an armory, but they make like how in the past like you've seen like there's foam weapons and stuff like that or like for your for your LARP character or your
like buffing
or for
Where
costuming.
Did we see
and
those
stuff.
last year?
Kineticon.
Was it? Oh yeah.
But this
I was already there.
But the one in particular that I had a lot of fun talking with and perusing their wares was this pair, Cynthia Abernathy and Nathaniel Wilson, and they are artists, and their tagline is accessorizing your imagination, and I was like, oh, I like that. Unique handmade costume designs and props, and I picked up a whole bunch of stuff, and I can show you one of the ones that I picked up because like that's how good it was. Where I was like, I'm gonna get one of these because I was looking at these and a lot of them were like knives and like axes and weapons, and they had a lot of other stuff that were more like skilled. But they had this, and I saw and this is super long. It's like a sacrificial knife, which is neat.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, there's a couple scary characters that I kind of want to like use.
Can I
this
touch?
Please go right ahead.
Thank you.
I am now showing them. It's a nice like sacrificial double-sided blade. Unfortunately, and this more speaks to me, it failed the Brett test, which is where I go nuts with it and then to see if anything happens. And on this one, there was a skull on the end of it, but what ended up happening is that I accidentally almost dropped it, and I caught it so quickly that it was almost like a cartoon where like the knife moved, but the skull at the end just stayed and then just dropped. So I was like, oh well. On the plus side, it's easily fixable. I can take care of it. I can make it back to what it was.
The force of Brett, just unrivaled.
But But that's more on me. That doesn't necessarily speak to the work, but like it's a great item. Where I was like, man, there's a couple people I want to point you in the direction of. So like, I got their card. And I'm gonna reach out to them because I'm like, man, can you imagine like a couple places where we work having like some props that are of that quality?
Yeah,
like it's pretty fun,
and not butcher knives from a Halloween shop,
right?
Like,
and they're
so you can tell it's like a plastic.
Yep.
And one of the things that like conventions usually go for their weapons policies or prop policies, they say the item should break before it harms a person. You know,
true.
It's like either it's foam or it's some kind of craft.
Yep.
And it's like before it actually does damage, the thing itself should be destroyed and break by on its own.
Yeah.
So imagine like if you were to literally try and stab someone with this thing, like it would snap maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
There might be some game.
It's pretty
a little
firm.
sharp.
It looks pretty legit.
That's a firm.
Like you look at it, it's like, oh shit, it's a knife. But you're not going to, do like lethal damage with it.
No.
Let's try.
I mean,
yeah, right.
Which I mean, isn't the purpose of costume props anyway?
Will he bleed? No, I'm just kidding.
But I mean, it's Brett. This is a good pick.
I know, right?
Because
it's a knife, actually. I'm on fire today.
Like the style that it's in looks almost like
savage,
barbaric.
Yeah.
We're on the same page. And it's not like other things that are out there for sale right now. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it doesn't look like something modern.
Nope.
It's like it's got good leather wrapping and everything. It looks primitive, but not caveman.
Yeah. Yep.
So
it really skirts that aesthetic that I really enjoy, and I'll probably add my own little doohickeys to it eventually. But it's really cool, and they had a whole bunch of stuff that's like this. A lot of stuff that's bigger, a lot of stuff that's smaller too. They had like really cool, like almost like what they call sacrificial knives that have like these really great, like, these really neat like curve like to them, look like raptor blades type of thing for anyone who watched Jurassic Park. But they look like that, and it was just awesome. And I had a lot of fun talking to them because they just like making these things.
Cool.
And there was like one dude who I saw, like they had a gigantic axe, and I was like, oh man, that's a really heavy duty axe. I don't know if they're going to be able to sell that. And then on Sunday I saw this guy proudly walking around with it over his shoulder, and I was like, yep, he completed his costume today, and it looked great. It was awesome. But that was like one of the guys, and he was in one of the main rooms. It was interesting. The vendor setup was a little, like they were peppered around. I mean, they still have, as you can probably see the map, like they have like the hallway with the vendor rooms and stuff like that, and they still had that. And then the village, they had a place called the Village Square, which was the ballroom, which was one of the main areas where not only were there vendors, but they were also a performance space. So it's like they took a gigantic ballroom, cut it into threes, and each third on either side were vendors, like 2 rows of vendors and whatnot.
Okay.
And then the center was like a little community room, and there was a stage for performances. I don't know if they checked with vendors before because but they had like bands playing. Holly played in that room. Pretty much Long Lost played
Holly
in that room.
Brewer from Human Wine and Folks Below.
Heck yeah. She was in full swing. Yep, and I saw her perform a number of times.
So, but the room wasn't divided.
No, the room was all one. And they had food there, like they had a Sunday brunch there on Sunday, and they had like tables in the middle, and there was a stage. So it was really interesting. It was like a little community room.
Okay.
Which I can only imagine that they had worked that out. Where it's like if you talk to the vendors, like, oh, you're going to be in this room, are you guys going to be okay with like loud audiences and whip cracking and music going on all day?
You have to yell at your supposed patrons and buyers. And
it's $3.50. How much? It's $3.50.
It was just wait 2 minutes for the set to end.
Yeah. But I mean, everything seemed fine. Like I walked around numerous times, a lot of really cool stuff. So that was a new, interesting kind of like addition.
Also, if you're a vendor, it's not a boring room to be in.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's no boredom to be had there for sure. But weird armories. I'm just going to call them weird armories because I'm hoping that's what it is.
You ever like read a D&D book or one of the fantasy things and see the word wyvern and not know if it's wyvern
or wyvern?
Wyvern.
I feel like that's probably what. Yeah, yep. So that for all of you fans that know that joke, then that's
okay.
That's armories, but they were great, and so I have their card, and I'm gonna like forward them off to people and stuff like that because I'm like, you make unique stuff that I feel like would be good for.
Here, I'm gonna.
I know, right? Yeah,
give it here.
The first thing that popped in my head was like, Alex is really gonna want to check this out, and like I know a lot of other people that are gonna want to check these out because. Man, so good. But that was one that was a new a newcomer that I had never seen before, and they did really well. They're really awesome. I like talking to them and just talking shop with them a little bit, just being like, I work to do this and I do this, and these would be really great for film and scaring people and like haunted attractions and stuff. And they was really fun talking to them. And the second one is a perfect example of the new vendors that I really like, which was Custom Fairy Wings, and that's just the name of the group. CustomFairyWings.com, all one word, so pretty easy to remember. They're on Facebook. They have an Etsy shop, and there was a pair. Unfortunately, I don't recall their names, but they're wonderful people. Awesome costumes. Like one of the women, one of the ladies had a really nice Victorian dress. But she did the thing where she has like the bustle that sticks out way too far, and there's like a teak set on the back, and she had like wings. It was awesome, and she makes these taxidermy fairies, and they're awesome. Like there was a whole wall of little like taxidermy, like like with butterflies, but they were fairies.
Were they pinned down and everything?
Yeah, they were amazing. And then they had like little terrariums that you could put on rings and stuff like that. And they had like these little fairy terrariums or ferrariums, if you will. And,
well played, sir.
Right? And it was awesome just hearing them talk about it. And like they were actually doing a bunch of other really fun interactive stuff. Like they had a little mini stove and they were making little tiny like pancakes and stuff like that. I was like, this is like, I don't know why like I was getting like super nerdy and like, because it's not normally something that I would typically like gravitate towards, but they were awesome people. They had really cool products. They were completely fine with like sharing how they made the stuff, which made me like it even more. And like it was just very unique. And their booth was really, really pretty. Like they had gigantic like overhang, and it was very grandiose, and they were just out on the atrium floor. They weren't in a room or anything like that, and they were just chatting up with people and just being really enthusiastic. I joked with them for like for a while, and they were really cool, and I really liked their stuff. Like I would have, like if it was something that I would collect, I would have bought like a whole lot of those things.
I feel like pointing out some of the conflict that I have with my niece when I bring her to ConnectiCon.
Yep.
Because I brought her last year. She was 11. And she's a child, and they want to touch everything. So if you're a good guardian, you walk around and like, don't touch anything.
Yeah.
You don't just let the kid do whatever.
Through your teeth.
You don't want to go through some place with people selling, expensive items and the kid just knocking shit over.
Yeah.
So it's like, Megan, don't touch anything. Just look with your eyes. Don't reach it.
I'm the oldest of three sons. You don't need to explain this to me. I lived
But then we'll get to a table, and the person working the table will say, "Yeah, pick it up. Just try it. Just give it a shot. Put the cat ears on. You like it."
Yep.
And Megan's like looks at me, and I'm like, "They said it's okay. Go for it." But like, it's the kind of battle between like, well, they didn't say it was okay, so I don't do it yet. And she's like, well, the last one said it was okay. I was like, it's not the game. So I imagine
some mixed signals that are my life. What are you doing?
But like, I imagine, even just taking the time, like you're saying, to talk with other people, because I imagine this is the kind of show. This is like one of those events where, like I was talking about my friend Amber before, when she went to Wicked Faire, she felt at home, like she's around family.
Yeah,
the environment is really nice. Everyone's super friendly. JR a ton of times has mentioned how much he loves Steamboat World's Fair because you just walk around and everyone smiles and you can compliment somebody and no one's think you're a weirdo.
Yeah,
and on that aspect, like even introverts wouldn't have a difficult time like chatting people up, and it's nice having that environment where you can go to a person whose business is to sell you things, but they'll be there to have a conversation with you and talk about their products and not just be like, you buy that or what? Just get out.
Yeah.
Like if you go to, some retail store in the mall, they're just going to watch you until you don't steal something. But it's a completely different atmosphere and different aspect.
Yeah.
It's like, if you can form a friendship, then you'll sell more product.
Yeah. I mean, it's
when
awesome.
I walk into your booth and I'm like, hey, I'm really interested in this. And I can say like, hey, how'd you do this? And then they're going to talk to me about it. The more they talk to me about it, the more the chances I'm probably going to buy it.
It's true.
Okay, so now you're talking it up to me. I hear about all the labor that went into it. I hear about how it's one of a kind. I hear about all these different things, and I go, okay, now I need it.
Yeah.
So not only have you established, like, you know, I'm going to tell other people about how great you are, like, and I'm also going to be like, look at this fucking rad thing I got, and then like,
But now you have a story to go along with your red thing
Exactly.
when you show other people.
yep.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. So, yeah, those are that's a small smattering of the new that I had. And of course, if you have like you like a lot of returnees, like Hibernacula is a group, is like they've been to previous events that I always like their stuff. They're kind of like the ones where you're like, oh, it's like they make jewelry and other like really ornamental stuff, but they're really cool. Like if I wore more stuff that was like jewelry stuff, like I would shop there, or if I knew more people that really gravitated towards that aesthetic, I would go to them. But Hibernacle always has like really cool stuff, you know, like horns and you know skulls, but it's like brass, so it's like really pretty and scary. Like it's that they traverse that wonderful line of
It's prairie.
yeah.
I don't have the other one. Go on.
Screddy? No, I don't know.
Screddy?
That doesn't sound right.
Anyway,
it sounds like I'm
try
trying.
it.
Yeah, it sounds like a 5-year-old trying to eat dinner. It's like I want some Screddy.
How many more sauce in my Screddy?
Well played. I like that a lot.
Yeah, but so that's Hibernacle. But no, but they have wonderful stuff. So a lot of just enough familiarity, but just enough new stuff to really kind of mix it up and make it exciting. Yeah, French and the Punk actually had like an interactive exhibit this year.
Oh, yeah?
What?
Yeah.
Explain.
It was called the Batfrog Habitat.
Well, they have their own Batfrog Facebook page now, too.
They do. Yep. I believe I have some artwork that's in there as well. Yep.
I have a bat. I have
Nice.
a bat that Frenchie made.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this one, I actually experienced it. And it was really neat because it was kind of like a little off the beaten path. Like it was near the ferry ball pit, which is on the far end. But it was really nice where we walked into a room. I actually waited for it like on Sunday. It was on Sunday, and I was like, the habitat was not open until noon, and like I was walking around 10, and I'm just like, is it open yet? No, I'm like, I'll just come back in a little bit. Like I checked around because I really wanted to experience it. And you walk in, and Samantha and Scott, they're out doing their stuff too, so they had somebody that was helping out. But I got to see Samantha, and she kind of like be like, "Are you excited?" And I walked in the room, and all the lights are out, and there's like a tarp, and there's a little tent with you walk in, and you just walk in, you crawl in because it's a little bit lower. You crawl in, and you sit on this really nice like a pollywog, if you will, and then you get to meet the bat frog that inhabits this habitat, and it's really kind of nice. Like it was super like meditative.
They're so rad.
I know, it's so good. Like it was all made by them. Like they made it themselves. But like you sit down, and it's like being in another like terrarium diorama. Like once again that theme of being in another place or mimicking another place that was there, where you're like in a pond and like you're hearing like this really nice like wood like music, and you're hearing like, you know, frogs ribbiting and like in very natural, corporeal, ethereal.
Okay.
Nice.
I don't know what either of those words mean.
But it was nice, and they had like lights and like, you know, like and the bat frog is just kind of laying there. You just hang out and you can meditate. You could ask the bat frog a question. You could contemplate or do a bunch of other stuff. And it's one of those things where I would only imagine. I'm sure this wasn't the initial purpose, but I would imagine like, you know, because there were a lot of families at this event. Like the kids go play in the ball pit. I'm going to go hang out with the bat frog. I'm going to go just kind of have like some me time and just like meditate and just kind of calm down a little bit. It was super peaceful. I could have fallen asleep in there, but there was a line.
It's another reason why I dig these events is because what'd you do this weekend? Hung out with the bat frog.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Don't
went
worry
to
about it.
Went to the bat frog habitat.
I stayed with
You'll
the
know.
ball pit. There was a ball pit, too. Oh.
Yeah.
See, that
it's
thing,
huge.
Like, this is where I turn negative.
Jeff has wanted a ball pit for so long.
I mean, ball pits, don't get me wrong.
Right.
Ball pits are rad.
Yeah.
I don't care how old you are. Jumping into a pile of plastic balls is it's the most fun.
Yep.
But all it takes is, and this, I'm not trying to say like this is the type of person that would go to that show, but it would just take one person to throw a syringe in there, a razor blade, and like, you don't know what you're jumping into.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just that one piece of shit person could ruin
You should volunteer to be the ball inspector.
I'm going to inspect the balls.
They did. Well, there was somebody there that was keeping watch. I mean, it was part
Okay.
it was part of the Overwatch.
Nice.
Wow, I didn't mean to
It's
even
okay.
say that.
Roll with it.
Just call him Winston.
You got to
Yeah.
watch your balls.
Yeah, you know. But no, it was honest to goodness. I mean, the ball pit is.
What are you doing this? I'm on ball watch.
It's the ball pit couldn't fit in this room.
Oh,
It could.
Really?
I don't think it could even fit in your kitchen.
okay.
Like it's that big. Like it's a gigantic pool. It's at least between 10 and 15 feet wide.
Wow.
By at least 5 to 6 feet long, and it's about 5 feet tall.
It's weird, seeing when Jeff was debating on getting a ball pit,
Yep.
and then he was trying to ask friends if they knew where to get some.
How would you
for
acquire?
maybe get some balls for a ball pit, and seeing that dream grow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's massive. Actually, you know what? They had an escape room.
Really,
I
They
saw
had an
that in the
escape room.
program.
The Traveler's Trunk escaped the room. I didn't get to participate, but it operates just like any escape room that you've heard of. I don't know what the theming was, unfortunately, except for it's the Traveler's Trunk. But
if anyone's never heard of one, it's you get some of your friends, or hopefully not strangers, and you get put on a team, you get put in a room, and it's locked or something.
Yep.
And there's a mystery, a secrets. You have to find your way out. You have to detective, Batman, Scooby-Doo, your way out of this thing, Sherlock Holmes, whatever.
yeah.
And everything in the room is a possible way to tell you what you need to get out. And there's a time limit usually. And so there's usually record holders for who got out the fastest or who didn't make it out, and then whether or not, if you never make it out, will they? You could choose if you want to know what the secret is or not, if you want to come back and try it again.
Yep.
So these are things. I know there's one place, Northampton, has a couple rooms.
Oh yeah, East Hampton.
That,
Yeah.
yes,
Yep.
that's there.
I actually,
A couple of our friends have you done it?
I have. I've done one of the two.
Okay.
Yep.
I know Joe's done one.
Yes, he's done
And-
both of them. He's
Okay.
Yeah.
I was hoping the OMV gang could go, but Joe went with his production people because he's an actor and plays and stuff.
Because Joe has more friends than us.
So escape room, right?
Yeah, but because there's an escape room, the ball pit. I mean,
wonder whose idea was that?
I don't know. I feel like it's. I mean,
Because keeping up with what's currently out there is, it can be a tough thing sometimes.
Yeah.
Because as much as you'd want to stick to what worked for the past how many years,
Right.
you do have to update and keep fresh and keep current.
it was apparently really good. I mean, every single day I would walk, but if I were in the area, I'd walk by multiple teams. I mean, they had to do in sessions, so it'd be an hour long session, and it was packed all 3 days, and there was a competition to see who would win, and some people were completing it with maybe 1 or 2 minutes left to spare. Some people with a couple seconds, and I think some people had gotten 15 minutes or 45 or something crazy.
Assholes.
Yeah, right. Super smart people. Well, that's what happens when you bring a bunch of nerds that are really smart into one spot. They're gonna hammer that out real quick. But yeah, I mean, it was awesome. I mean, it's a classic. I'm looking at the schedule. The schedule. It's a classic JM. It's a classic Jeff Mack event schedule. I mean,
Yeah.
I saw 20. I personally experienced 20 different things, and I barely got 30% of what was going on.
Yeah.
I know there were events. I was going through the program that I brought too, and I'm just man, I didn't see them at all.
That was there. Yeah, that happens every time.
It's just so much, and actually, one of the cool things is that in the atrium, they were really heavy on atmosphere. I mean, the group of teams. I kind of helped out a group that was kind of doing what they call the human resources department, which is a bunch of fae folk that kind of work relations with humans, and they would hold panels, and then they would just be out and about interacting with people. What was funny about it is that I kind of the character that I've made that I kind of that I literally made up for Wicked Faire last year kind of came to Glimmerdark, and then because of I was just planning on doing that, he just so happened to kind of get wedged into this with this kind of troupe of performers and whatnot. And Escadalia brought a couple that were amazing. They didn't speak at all. They're but they were fae folks. They had wonderful costumes. They were wonderful performers, hilarious. I would break out laughing because they were so funny.
Jared, I don't know if you saw, Ascadelia rode a luck dragon to
I saw a picture of it.
one of her aerial events.
Yep. Yep. And even at the beginning, we did a dragon dance and a drum circle, and then there's a bunch of photos for me on there. But the character that have his like a stark contrast to all the other people that are very brightly colored, like fae folk and like dragons, and everyone's like bright blues and whites, and I'm just sitting here like just like the most gothic wizard punk like monster. I'm like the Eeyore of the group if it was Winnie the Pooh, pretty much.
This evil skull.
Yeah, like and all the fays like made me like a crown of like made me like a little crown of roses and stuff like that. So that way I would kind of like fit the mood. But I'm just walking around like, but his name is Voris. Voris just walking around being cranky, just being like, I don't want, I'm gonna be scary. It was pretty funny. It was a wonderful juxtaposition, made for a lot of fun. But yeah, all of those people kind of helped out throughout. Had a couple panels about like etiquette and just retelling of stories and stuff like that. And I actually got to experience a lot of different things that I haven't before. Like I got to witness an overly dramatic reading contest. I had never seen that before, but it was really entertaining because like you have people that are just really good orators, and performers, people with a lot of theater background, and people like really good acting chops. So they would do like dramatic readings, like like that you'd see on like SNL or something like that, but with a much more like concentrated fae twist. Like somebody decided to read. Somebody did requests, and somebody decided to read the review for the sugar-free gummy bears at post on eBay. The Amazon review of the sugar-free gummy bears as Mickey Mouse, which is really interesting. And then someone else said,
right, like, so looking at the program for a second.
Yes,
I thought they were just going to read Midsummer Night's Dream.
That was one of them.
That was a different one.
Yeah,
okay.
Different iterations. Yeah, but they did do a Midsummer.
So they did like more than one performance.
Yeah. One was for more like the theatrical, and then one was just like funny. Like what's the funniest thing that you can say in like an operatic, very important voice?
Because at first I was like, how do you overly dramatic Shakespeare?
Yeah. Well, it's like the classic thing. Like I think what ended up happening, I might be wrong on this, but it is if it wasn't this,
just
it was
think of
an
Hot
equivalent,
Fuzz.
right? Where it's like I walked
Poison.
Like I walked in,
kiss thine lips.
Like the perfect example. Like I walked in and I heard, "I like big butts and I cannot lie," and I'm like, oh, "Damn it, it's so good." I was like, "All right, I'm down with this. I can hang with this. This is pretty good."
Fun.
Yeah. So that was really neat, and I mean, it had like and they had like theater games, which I didn't get to see, but yeah, there's a lot of like improv comedy like chops interspersed between the vendors and the performers.
Did anyone
in the interactive events?
For the dramatic readings, did anyone do the who are responsible this?
I don't believe so, but
damn.
they had a poll list. I didn't get to see like what everything was included, but they had a bunch of randos that you'd just be able to pluck out of anywhere.
Who are responsible this?
So good. But yeah, so like it was.
Go back and listen to our episode with Rob Bricken.
Oh, so good.
I am good writer. All French say so. I am legend in message groups.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go on.
No, that's fine. Like, but the dragon dance was cool, and actually one of the other really neat things was that one of the big additions that I would say was they had a drum circle, and like they had a vendor / performance guy, the Fae, the green fairy guy that I told you before with the bells. He brought a bunch of drums and djembes and like all these other like really old school.
Rad.
Yeah, and they would have like a drum circle in the atrium, so you'd walk around and you'd hear this wherever you go in the main area. So it added like this amazing atmosphere to things. I can imagine it would get a little tricky when you'd have like Escadelia performing or Scott performing, where you'd be like you would hear like the distant like drumming of somebody just practicing. But when there isn't a performance happening, they would just get a bunch of guys that just have some drumming chops or just come in like or just have like literal drum circle or having a class. So if you want to learn how to drum, you can come right in, just pick up something and just follow along, and it was awesome. So there'd be like belly dancing performances and stuff like that, and that was really neat just to have that as like a constant thing. It brought everything kind of together, whereas opposed to you're not like walking in this empty arena to get one place to another. It became like a warm place where
there's something happening.
Yeah. So that was really awesome. I thought that was a really fun addition that was just atmosphere. So good. So, and that was always happening that was always happening continually off and on throughout the course. And you just have random people that would just grab something. And then, with a bunch of people that are in a theater and acting, it doesn't take long for one person to start hammering on a drum, and then another person to come in on a mandolin who's walking around, and then all of a sudden you have a bunch of belly dancers come in, and they have a bunch of other people that are just out down to dance, and you have a bunch of little kids come in, so then it just becomes a performance in of itself.
Yeah.
So that was super neat. Yeah. So you had a lot of that going on.
The most important question that I have for you, Brett, as we get to we still got about 10 minutes or so.
Certainly.
The most important question that I can think of about the show is how was the professor?
He was great. Yeah. Professor was...
How'd he look? How is his booth looking?
Sharp.
Okay.
He actually...
As always.
Yes, of course. Like he of course, once again, just being he actually made, I believe he made the dragon that you saw in the photo. Like he made it.
Really?
Yeah. And then he also
he conjured it.
It
Didn't
also,
exist,
No.
and now it exists.
Yep.
He just formed it out of his mind.
Yep. I felt that. Yeah, it was great because I got to hang out with him quite a little bit. And in his crew, like Vera and John, just to name a couple of the people that he always brings with him, especially at this event. They're always just great to talk to. Really fun, warm people to just kind of nerd out about stuff with. Once again, like I was looking, like I was talking to his whole crew of people about like a character I want to come up with for Steampunk World's Fair and all that stuff. And then of course they just be like, "Oh, well, you should try this." I'm like, "I know, oh, it's gonna be a problem." This is like, yeah. So
was it one of the things where they just take something out of the rack and just put it in your hands?
Yeah.
I hate it when that happens.
I
love it, but I hate it. But it's great. But I don't want it to
But
happen.
my wallet gets really angry.
I held an antique wooden baton that was actually used in a correctional institution.
Like, are there teeth marks in it?
No, but there's wear and tear. Like they had two. There was one that was actually out in the field, and then they had one that was made but was never used. And seeing like the two differences, like the history hits you in the face, and you're like,
one
wow.
of them's seen some things.
Yeah,
That's the kind of thing where like I wanna do like the spray with the UV test, like you see on CSI. Like,
oh God, no! I don't know if I'd be mentally prepared for that one. But then Mark B.
Gunshot residue.
There's not going to be gunshots on.
But
Residue, Alex. Like if they're holding the baton in one hand and then they're shooting with the other. GSR goes everywhere, according to CSI. It's literally everywhere, and you can break any case with it.
I was just thinking of all the biomatter.
Gross.
I had a weird. I didn't realize how. Actually, I have a really weird, funny story to be honest. Like later on the evening on Saturday night, I found myself hanging out with the professor and his crew.
Professor Mark P.
We haven't
Donnelly,
said his name
by
yet.
the way.
Yeah, I know, Professor Mark P. Donnelly, and
Gentleman and scholar,
yep.
author of many books,
yeah,
purveyor of fine goods.
Just being social, like he had like
word, purveyor.
Yeah.
Yep. Like just being social, just hanging out with a bunch of people, and Babs and I, we felt we had to go to bed early. We had a long day, whatever, and we were like, and Babs had an hour and a half panel at 9-10 o'clock in the morning or so, and so we had to leave. Like we hung out for a very brief period, not nearly as long as we wanted to, but we said we're like, all right, we gotta be responsible, whatever, and so we left around like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I get up, and then we are going on our way to the room, and then we see Mark B. Donnelly waking up, and I was like, and he was like, and I've never, like, I was like, I never been so embarrassed at my own performance of being able to stay awake. Where I was like,
was he fine or?
He was fine. He was just like, hey guys, you guys skedaddled really early. I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, we got to do the thing. He's like, well, I was fine. I was up until like 4 o'clock in the morning. Whatever. I'm being Professor Mark B. Donnelly. But that was awesome. Like just to be social and just kind of hang out and stuff like that. So it's always an enjoyment to see Mark B. Donnelly at any occasion. The professor.
That's true.
But yeah, and then I believe he also held. He's really good at theming his panels too. Like he did a bit, The Strange Case of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and the Cottingley, which I believe is I think he talked a lot about Fey folk and like kind of like the classic photos about like the guy, I believe Sir Conan Arthur, very Sherlock Holmes and very like the mysterious and stuff like that. But he did a lot of really, did his thing as always, being awesome and being accommodating and a gentleman and scholar as always, as it says on his card. So that was always lovely. And actually, I didn't even get to give proper due. I would say that Daniel Greenwolf was he's a guy that I wanted to make a specific point about because it's really weird because I don't think I've actually ever met him face to face or even had a conversation with him, but yet we are in the satellite communities. Yeah, like we know so many. You have had more interaction with him than I have.
I've been in his apartment once.
Yeah, like
which I don't know if he remembers because that was a long time ago.
It's one of those weird things where like I don't even want to get too into it because it's going to sound like I'm weird, but like we've been a karaoke place at the same spot before. Like we both know a lot of the same.
You're both
people.
friends with Dave Garrity.
Yeah, exactly. And and I've just never been able to I saw him perform at the place at the park.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. But it was really really amazing. He was in top form. Like his performances this week were amazing. Like he made me cry on Saturday in a good way.
Really?
But like he moved like an entire room like on Saturday with his final bit. Like well the cool thing is like unfortunately I wanted to see his full performance at the park, but we're too busy working. So like I only get to see it in small snippets. But I can guarantee you that the performance that I saw over the weekend was not the one that was not there were certain bits about it for sure, but I definitely saw a lot of acts where I'm like, I don't think this was performed.
Well, I saw on his post before he left, he had so many shows where he didn't want to repeat too much stuff. Yeah. And so he was like making a checklist of like the best stuff he could bring that he would have to do, that would take up enough space, and you still be able to transport it. And so like it looked like he had a lot of different things prepped for all the shows he was going to do.
Yeah. And man, his demeanor and his actually, let me back up to the point where I said he made me cry.
Was there possible death?
Yeah, well, definitely bodily endangerment for sure. Because his last act,
that's part of his catchphrase. Come back for the next show. There was this possible death.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, but it was amazing.
Way to get returning customers.
I don't want to go into too much of it because it was kind of like it rubs elbows with a couple different things. But long story short, he had made this piece before a couple things had happened, and the whole piece was talking about how back in the day, like our Irish forefathers, like when they were first immigrants, like how they were met and like how they were treated and whatnot. And his performance concluded with him escaping from a straitjacket with a paper bag around his head, and over it was a gigantic sack that said "Irish need not apply."
Yep. I learned about the Irish need not apply history from his posts and things that he's shared. Yeah, because there's all the controversy of like people say, "Well, that never happened. We never had anything against Irish." And he's like, "Here's signs from 80 years ago of people." Of saying Irish need not apply because they didn't want them to work because they thought they were filthy immigrants. Yep. And like there's this whole terrible history of bad culture. Yeah. And like I learned all that from him.
Yeah. I mean, and once again, like it's his performance. I'd rather just encourage you to go see him perform because like I don't want to glean anything off of it that he doesn't want to have gleaned. But I mean, it was very poignant. It was very emotional, and it was. I'm actually getting like taken aback, like just because of like thinking back to it. It was very powerful, I could say, and it spoke a lot to a lot. It was very relevant, I guess you could say. So yeah, so I wanted to make sure I gave an extra tip of the hat and hats off and a glass raised to Daniel Greenwolf's performance. That was awesome.
Did you know?
Hopefully, I'll talk to him at some point too. So I'd be like, oh. I've seen you perform a lot.
Just some stranger talking about me.
I'm sorry.
Did you know Yes before seeing his show yourself?
I had seen him perform a couple. I'm sorry. Re-say that.
The Yes.
Yes. Oh,
when I have seen that. Yes,
he
does a trick when he when he does a trick, he gets his audience to like do a callback.
Yeah.
And he moves his arm a certain way, then moves it back, and then fist pumps.
Yes.
And like he gets everyone to go along with it, and it's a ooh, yes. And like
Yep.
and even without seeing him intro the show that way, and like I'll walk into a show late and he like starts a hand motion, and I immediately know here comes the ooh yes.
Yeah.
And like it's a really neat callback that I see different performers like figure out to have the audience involved. I saw a guy named Zoltan or Zoltar. This was at a Ren Fair show in Hebron, Connecticut.
Yep.
And he was like, I don't remember how it ended, Zolt something, but he was the adequate. And so he would do a trick, then say, "What is that most amazing thing you've ever seen?" And the crowd goes, "No, just adequate." And like the people, after a little ways into a show, they would figure it out, and like he would have to prompt them too much; they would know that's the callback.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
man. I don't want to go over too long, but like but man, it was a good weekend. There was a lot of I did a lot of stuff, and I saw a lot of people, and hung out, and got to deliver artwork to people too, and that was awesome. Yep,
artwork.
Oh yeah. Because there's a lot of people where I was like, I want to make sure that I hand this to you in person, and thank you personally for personing.
So,
but actually, and Babs ran a couple. Babs, who takes pictures, she ran a couple items which were great.
If you want to visually take in any of the things we've been talking about,
yes,
I advise you to go check out Babs Who Takes Pictures and look at her galleries for Glimmerdark.
Yeah,
because that's probably the best place you're gonna see what was going on
for sure. When she works an event, she's like, oh, well,
she's a blur.
I guess I just took 2,000 photos today. Wait, today, not the weekend. Today, yeah, today. No big deal. I burned out another computer because I take so many photos, and my driver literally cannot handle the workload that I put into it.
I think my record for taking photos was PAX last year when I took 300.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, man, I took a lot of pictures today, or this weekend.
Yep. It's one of those things where I never, I guess I don't want to say that I took Babs for granted. I never take Babs for granted, but it's one of those things where she had this panel, and she held a complete live captive audience. It was a very small audience because it was Sunday morning, so it was a hangover day.
Yeah.
But there were other people who were clearly photographers. She was giving a lecture, long story short, to these people that were I would posit, and I don't want to speak in tones, or I don't want to make any declarative sentences that are true, but were I to make a guess, she was giving hardcore instruction and just dialogue, and dropping these really great pieces of information to people that were much older than her, with a lot more experience than her. In terms of traditional stuff like that, she was, and there were guys taking notes, being go back, what were you what program? No, wait, no, you do it how long? What do you move in Lightroom and stuff? So it was awesome seeing Babs kind of in her element, and just giving out the information. And she also does live streaming on Twitch every Wednesday for some of her photos, where she does post-op and stuff like that. So she used a lot of that. So it's really cool. I was really proud of Babs.
Was there a lot of people that hung around for Sunday? Because in the past, Sunday's been bailout day.
Yeah, I would say that there were. It was definitely. It wasn't as busy as it was on Saturday for sure. That's probably going to go up her most easiest sentence to say ever. But I've seen attendees not dressing up on Sunday because they're packing up to leave. Yeah,
and I've even seen booths not selling on Sunday because they're packing up to leave.
Yeah,
they have a drive ahead of them. They didn't pay to stay Sunday night.
Yep,
so they could pack up on Monday.
There's always
sometimes it's bailout day.
I feel like it's inevitable. For some people, yeah. For others, no. And there's always you have your hardcore crew. There's the one thing where I wouldn't say that Glimmerdark was it wasn't the craziest heavily attended event I've ever seen in my entire life. But there was still a lot of people there, and the people that were there, it was quality over quantity for sure. The people there darn near almost every single person I saw was dressed up. They were involved in the events. They would see the performers. They were buying stuff. They were generally genuinely happy to be there. They would participate. They would do all sorts of really cool stuff all through Friday and Saturday, and on Sunday you still had people and families, like little kids, like Voris, being the scary guy he was like got his picture taken with like a little fake kid that like loved the heck out of him, and I was like, man, this is really cool. Like it was
that kid's gonna be fine.
Yeah,
if they can handle this now,
right? Well, that's a funny thing. Like, you know, the adults being like, no, he can handle you people. It's regular people that they can't handle. I'm like, no, she's one of us. Yeah, but it was, so overall, I mean, it was a great event. Once again, you know, like it's,
So we're going to pause there.
Sure.
The event takes place in a hotel.
Yes.
The entire thing is in the hotel.
Yep.
So, like, living there for a couple of days is handled by the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
There's a hospitality aspect to it.
Yes.
Where like you're taken care of and you're provided for. And like you have to fend for yourself for a bit. Mm-hmm. So how was the food?
My food experiences this year did not match up to what they were in past years. And part of it's my fault and part of it is not. I'll put it that way. Like
so let's stick to stuff that, you know, the environment provided for you.
Sure. Yeah. Well, there were issues. My personal issues were that I really wanted to hit up the buffet because I in years past I've always loved the buffets that they've had there, and I don't. It's the price points are at a point where you can't have that. You can't eat the buffet every single day, like unless like that's all you brought money for and that's all you really saved up for. Then that's not what you're going to be doing, which we didn't.
Like I'd rather give my money to the person who worked over this. They crafted this item with their own hands,
right? And
if you can't do that because you spent money on reheated bacon, then you know that's
the food. Well, I'll put it this way: the buffet itself was good. It's just I never got around to it. And the time that I did, I was like, oh, I really want to hit up the buffet. And they're like, we're at a transition period. You can't eat until 5. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be around until 5. So that was on me. My timing was bad on Saturday. Sunday, I was like, oh, well, which didn't help me either because I was like, oh, man, it's going to just hangover brunch. Like, yeah, hangover brunch is going to be my thing. Like, that's the one thing I'm going to splurge on for food. It was $16.50, and I'm like, I'm going to, like, get all this stuff, and, like, they sold it. And it wasn't bad, but it didn't maybe this is just me having overly high expectations, but at the same time I was like, it didn't hit the spot the way I wanted it to. And and they still had good food, like sweet potato hash. Like I was like, oh man, I'm all about that. That's awesome. You know, and they did have food there, but it wasn't it just did like I finished.
I saw there were add-on items.
Yeah.
Which to me doesn't speak buffet. Speaks like you get some stuff, but then you got to pay extra for this other stuff.
Yeah, well, that's what it was, where I was like, well, I don't like coffee, and I'm not really interested in getting a tea. Can I just get, like, an orange juice or something else? And they were like, well, sorry, that costs more. I'm like, but I just gave you $16.50. I have a band. Like, I have a thing. And they were like, it costs more.
You can have the colored water, but the actual juice is extra.
But, so I was a little salty about that. I mean, whether or not you want to call me spoiled for it, I don't blame you. But at the same time, I was like, I kind of felt like but the food that I did eat there was good. Like they had like a really neat they had like a French toast scramble that was like almost like a pudding that tasted really cool. I had a lot of that. Like they had breakfast burritos that were really neat. They just had one that I didn't want to eat, but that's just me.
Fair.
That's just mine. And they had eggs and bacon and the stuff that was good. But though I think the weird thing was that not weird, but I think what also happened was that the hangover brunch happened in the village square, the thing I told you about where they split the room in threes. It was there, so like it wasn't like really part of it. Like I wasn't in part of like the buffet area where you pay, like, you go get your food.
You mean like it wasn't like next to the kitchen, like they wheeled out carts or something?
Yeah, no,
okay.
It was in the middle of like an area, which is not bad, but
right.
there weren't a lot of tables there, so like Babs and I actually ate, I think, standing up. So we were like, okay, well that's great. So it wasn't. I think in my head I was hoping it to. In my head, it was a lot better because I also built myself up to it. So
yeah.
I made my own disappointment on that one because it was still good. It was still good food.
Well, they should have less flashy flyers for you then.
Well, it was a pretty hard sell, but I mean the food at the bar was really great. Like they had all the stuff at the bar was really moderately priced, and they had I had like a really nice like flatbread for like $8, and that totally like hit the spot that I got to the atmosphere for that was a lot better. I would have been more. I was more bummed out that I couldn't just like sit down, have my breakfast, just spend time with my girlfriend, and just kind of take in the day. It was more along the lines of like, it was very high stress because there's, I'm gonna have to whittle. Don't drop your food on the vendor's table. Like, don't do that, or like, don't like, there's a band playing. I can't enjoy the quiet of just consuming food, or
it's breakfast.
Yeah, and I don't like coffee or tea.
Breakfast is quiet time. It's not.
I'm not. I don't like coffee or tea, so I'm just going to scald all my teeth, all my taste buds and down my throat because I can't wait for it to cool off because I just ate like half a thing of bacon plate.
Did you guys leave it all or just stay there the whole weekend?
No, we stayed. We stuck around. Yeah,
we rarely leave for other shows. We leave for Steampunk, but that's like to get fast food or something terrible for us. But
no, Chipotle. We got Chipotle last year. That was awesome.
Did we?
Oh yeah,
2 years ago we did.
Oh, was it 2 years?
Yeah. I remember
it like it was yesterday. It could have happened yesterday. To me at least. For me at least. Man, Chipotle. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's about it. Like my only grievances are really just me being spoiled, but also just being like, I spent $16.50. You give me an orange juice. Like, come on.
Well, let's in hospitality, to an extent, it's their job to provide a little better than that.
Well, yeah. I mean, but once again, if that's the only thing that's the only thing I really have I would call a dampener, and I use air quotes on that, then it was a pretty good weekend. Because they did have,
fair. Yeah.
If that one, like the one food thing, that was the thing that really bummed me out. Outside of all the other options that they had and the other food that they did have that I just couldn't get to because of my own stupid schedule, then that's fine.
That's a term that I like to try and use, where it's like, I'll complain because like my dad's mad at me because I didn't mow the lawn today.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, my dad's mad, he's not talking to me. Like, and then I realize, like, if that's the most I have to complain about, I'm doing pretty good.
Yep.
So
my only other follow-up complaint would be like, man, does Cartoon Network not play anything other than Teen Titans Go these days, or what, man? Like, every time, like, I would come back to the room to like rest, hang out,
take your
have
boots off
a libation, or eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'd just be like, what's on Cartoon Network? Because I don't have cable, so cable is like a luxury to me now. But I'm like, oh man, what's on Cartoon Network? Oh, Teen Titans Go, 4 hours of it. All right, neat. Which is fine because there's still funny episodes. But yeah, it was interesting.
I got you. I follow.
Yeah, like I like so much of a good thing, but like if I watch like 1 or 2 episodes,
Brad,
it's
okay. We got Samurai Jack back. So
all right, that's true. Yeah. Oh man, I will rent out a hotel just to watch that.
I just want to be in a room by myself.
Yeah.
Don't interrupt me.
Yep. Sorry.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then we went home.
And then everything worked out.
Yeah. And actually it was a nice event. It was the first event that I've been to in Princeton, New Jersey, where we didn't get snowed in. It was a snowless weekend, which was awesome.
I've always wanted a Frisbee from Princeton College because their ultimate Frisbee team is Clockwork Orange, and their Frisbee is an orange disc with the eyeball.
Oh my gosh. That's
nice.
Awesome.
Just want to throw that out there.
We'll get you one someday.
That's great.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Brett, thanks for coming on and telling us about the first ever Glimmerdark.
No, thanks for having me.
Has me that much more excited for World's Fair in May.
Mm-hmm.
Super fun shit. It's like the kickoff of the con season almost. We got PAX next month.
Mm-hmm.
And much excitement to be had. Brett, thanks again.
No problem.
You're the best. I love you.
Right back at you.
Oh, stop.
Yeah.
You too, Alex.
I know.
I pointed at both of you when I said that. I know. I'm done.
So that's gonna do it
Me
for this week. Glimmerdark,
Yep.
Jeff Mack events, World's Fair in a couple months. Let's
Next,
do it.
yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So until next week, I was JR.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Brett Kelley.
This has been episode, get my notes up here, 256 of Opinions May Vary.